There we go. Can everyone hear me now? So let's think about this. We are here to talk about the viral news about these huge structures that were just announced by a team, these claims for these things that are underneath the pyramid that stretch down 2 kilometers. It tells me my sound should be working now. Is my sound on? Okay, good. So this news has been, geez, I mean, I have had about 50 people ask me about these megastructures under Giza, and I am more than qualified to talk about this. And it's a Friday afternoon here. It is 6:45, and I got a beer right now, a Leffe, and we're gonna dig in. Okay, guys. Here, wait. Let me turn this off because. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Archaeology with Flint Dibble, where my 25 years of experience as an archaeologist can help us unravel some of these claims. So let's do this. Let's get my shit together. So this is what these look like. Apparently, there are 8 columns with something circling around them that apparently go 2 kilometers down underneath the middle pyramid at Giza, the pyramid for Khafre. I have had nonstop questions about this. I first heard about it when my high school buddy shot me a message on WhatsApp, but then I checked Twitter and it was like all these crazy nut jobs who hate me somehow think that this proves me wrong. Okay, welcome to my world, welcome to my life, because apparently as an archaeologist who wants to speak up and share my expertise, that excuses people to just shit on me, to call me fucking asshole names. And you know what? I've had enough of this, guys. Fuck off if you're going to give me shit. You're going to be blocked right away. Now, if there were structures under the pyramid in Egypt, would that prove anything I've ever said wrong? Not necessarily, but let's look at whether there are or not. After all, I don't focus on the pyramids. That's not my research. Even when I talked with Graham Hancock, it was about the Sphinx, not the pyramids. So let's see. This is how this was announced in this press release by this Italian team led by Filippo Biondi and what's the name of the other dude? Here we go. What's the name of the other guy? It's like a whole massive team. Corrado Malanga, who's a chemist, not an archaeologist, and Filippo Biondi, who is not actually affiliated anymore with Strathclyde University. Yes, Archaeomila, I hope you'll tune in a second. I'd like some more news from you, from the Italian side. But what they've claimed is that they've done this kind of radar analysis called SARS, which is basically an acoustic radar type thing where you can detect things remotely. And using this in the Giza Plateau, they found a wealth of data on previously unknown structures. It's tomographic images, some lovely fancy words, obtained from satellite data, which, by the way, is real satellite data, that's for sure. And so they found that this stuff shows all these things underneath. They show underneath Belzoni's chamber, there's intense spots, and it creates these kilometers deep structures, megastructures. They even claim there's structures under 2 kilometers down underneath the Giza Plateau, some sort of underground city. We'll look into that. Let's look at a bit second at their press release so we can give them a chance to actually tell us what they have. This is dubbed into English. So yeah.
Buonasera e benvenuti sul canale Expedition.
Good evening and welcome to the Expedition channel, the official channel of the Khafre Project. This is an announcement in my role as Head of Communications for the Research Project conference, held both in person and online. to reveal the results of an innovative and groundbreaking study that has redefined the boundaries of satellite data analysis and archaeological exploration. During the press conference, for the first time ever, structures believed to correspond to the legendary halls of Amenti will be revealed. Using synthetic aperture radar (SAR) technology, combined with the new doppler tomography methodology, the research team has made a series of unprecedented discoveries, located precisely beneath the Giza Plateau. This technological innovation involves converting photonic radar information into phononic signals, vibrational data within the acoustic band, thus enabling the exploration of deeply buried structures beneath the Earth's surface.
Okay, so that is a little snippet from the press conference of them announcing this kind of technology that this team has used that has found these kilometers deep megastructures. I mean, we are talking immense. The size of one of these pillars is higher than the Empire State Building, and apparently there's 8 of them underneath the Pyramid of Khafre at Giza. So, for a little bit of context, why is my PowerPoint going nuts? The method that this is based off of is a method that is used in archaeology and in other kinds of remote sensing to understand land use, environmental data sets, urban data sets even in the modern world. It is called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography, and it has been in use since the 1980s. So it is not exactly a new sort of technology in that sense. However, this team, Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malanga, Malanga is actually a chemist. He has nothing to do with this technology or an archaeology at all. And Filippo Biondi is actually someone who has experience doing remote sensing. They published in peer-reviewed in 2022 a look at the Great Pyramid. So that's different from what we're about to talk about. But to them, it was to show a few new voids within the Great Pyramid. Voids which, by the way, have not been confirmed since this 2022 paper has been published. And I think that that matters for a second. But we'll get back to that in a second because that's one of the issues with this method and these claims. This is the data that they presented last week that they released for journalists and stuff like this. This is what the actual data looks like when you use this SAR method to scan, in a sense, remotely using satellite data, the area underneath the middle pyramid at Giza. So this is what we are assessing, what this kind of data means, these kind of red, green, bluish blobs on the screen. I thought I had an image of the pyramids. I don't. Where the hell are the pyramids? No, stop. Okay. So 1 second, let me get up on Google. Let me find you an image of Giza. So yeah, what we're looking at is, in a sense, Khafre's pyramid, and it is the one that is behind the Sphinx. So right here is the pyramid we are talking about, the one that is behind the Sphinx in the middle of the 3 major pyramids at Giza. The middle pyramid, we're not talking about the Great Pyramid with this new study that has come out. It actually hasn't come out. The new study that's been announced with these claims. So, okay. So how do we assess this? What are the issues here besides the fact that it just sounds preposterous that there are structures larger than the Empire State Building underneath the pyramids of Giza? Okay. Problem number 1. When you do remote sensing, you need to do something called ground truthing. When archaeology has been doing remote sensing for many generations, and what we have found is that when we do things like remote sensing, what that means is you're trying to look at things that are really far away, sometimes that are underground. So it could be stuff like, magnetometry. to get magnetic signals from underground. It could be ground penetrating radar. It could be different kinds of wavelengths in satellite imagery that can tell us what's going on. And what you always need to do with it first is you need to actually go and check that your signal actually makes sense with what's on the ground, because there's all kinds of explanations when you're doing remote sensing for the kind of signal that you receive in your data. For these kind of lines, there can be multiple explanations for them. And so one way to kind of ground truth this, I noticed this conversation, for example, on X this morning, is that, well, is the data this team is producing actually showing what we do know at the Giza Plateau? So, for example, Vincent Brown here, who reports on Egyptological discoveries, was talking with Egyptologist and agent Nigel Hetherington, and they note that why do these people's scans not actually show caves that we know are there? So if there are caves there, we know they are there, they should show up in these scans if these scans are accurately depicting underground voids and underground structures like those caves. So the initial bit of ground truthing seems to me, I've seen several discussions about this on social media with archaeologists, that the data that's presented is not actually showing what we have real physical knowledge of, caves that we have been in, voids that we know about in the pyramids, and things like that. And so, as an example of a reference of a project that is doing that, there's the Pyramid Scan Project, which is a collaboration between the Cairo University and the Heritage and Innovation and Preservation Institute in France. They have been doing muon scans of the Great Pyramid for the last decade. They've been publishing the results, and they've been working to try to ground truth them. And so, for example, many Egyptologists have been skeptical of some of the claims by this Pyramid Scan Project, and certainly not all of them have been ground truth. But they have been working over the last decade to take their muon scans and then figure out different ways to ground truth them with other methods, sometimes involving physical investigation, sometimes involving other types of imaging and remote sensing methods to be able to confirm what they see with their muon scans. And so in that sense, this is an example of how remote sensing should be done. You get a signal and you do what you can to check it. This paper, which is ground truthing the small void that the Pyramid Scan Project has found in the Great Pyramid, was just published, 3 days ago. So they are still doing this kind of ground truthing to be able to demonstrate their results in a convincing fashion, because that is how we go about remote sensing. And I have done this myself many times, where we have worked with satellite imagery, where we think we have evidence for ancient architecture, and then we go there and we check it, and sometimes it turns out to be ancient architecture, and sometimes it turns out not to be. So there's an important lesson that archaeologists have learned for decades, that while remote sensing is extremely valuable, we have to ground truth it, because we recognize that it's not perfect. It's not always what we want it to be, the results, if you see what I mean. And so we need to actually double check. So even more problematic with the study that was just announced last week using this SAR method. Like I said, this SAR method has been used by archaeologists and surveyors back for 40 years, since the 1980s. And the big problem with it is it does not penetrate very deep into desert soils and sands and through rock. It actually, using some of the best machine learning methods, it penetrates as deep as like 3 meters. So with accuracy and precision. So part of the problem is, well, I mean, in this article here, let me see if I can pull it up. I have this article handy. Let's see. I do have this article handy, right? I swear. 2 seconds. Let me get the right thing. Here we go. Even in their introduction, they point out that this has been used since the 1980s In the early 80s, NASA had started using this, and it was demonstrated that it could receive subsurface information of the Sahara Desert to a depth of a few centimeters to a few meters, to 2 meters. And more recent methods, like I said, from 2023, this is what we're looking at, have repeatedly demonstrated that this method, the SAR method, does not penetrate more than 2 meters through rock, even using up-to-date advanced machine learning and AI methods to be able to inversely, how do they put it? To invert the penetration depth of these SAR signals. So this is a real big smoking gun issue. These are not new methods. These are well-known methods that have limitations in what they can tell us about what is happening underground. And this team has not demonstrated that they have solved those problems, because these are well-known problems that we cannot trust the data beyond a meter or two in desert environments or through rock. So yeah, problem number one is a significant problem. The methods do not seem up to the task to demonstrate the claims that have been made. Problem number two, we actually know quite a lot about Giza and the pyramids. And we know quite a lot, not just about the pyramids themselves, but we actually know quite a lot about the actual landscape, the topography and the geology and the hydrology of the Giza Plateau. In fact, we know enough of it to call it a fucking plateau, right? We know what this is. So, if we actually understand the geology and the hydrology of the Giza Plateau, it's pretty easy to show that there are problems with claims that there are megastructures underneath the pyramids. The reason why is because, well, the pyramids themselves are sitting on bedrock. They're carved out of bedrock. They're solid rock underneath the pyramids. So how do you build a megastructure into solid rock, if you see what I mean? And this is well studied. We have books and articles on the stones and the geology and the quarrying of stones at Giza. We understand the entire topography of these pyramids, the Sphinx, where the different quarries are for pulling out stones to build these pyramids. And in fact, we actually not only have the quarries themselves, we have the quarries where they were cut out of bedrock. We can physically see that this is solid rock that the pyramids are actually built on, right? And at the same time, we understand the geology of when this rock was formed. This rock was formed in the Eocene. So we're talking millions of years ago. We have the fossils from that period inside the rock, because it's limestone formed by fossils, formed by shellfish and things like that. So we have a clear understanding of this bedrock. We also have a clear understanding of how the stones of the pyramid, because of chemical analyses of the stones, where they map out to where they were carved out of different quarries on the Giza Plateau, and sometimes they were imported, some of the limestone and granite, of course. And so, why is my computer going weird? This is what the geology of the Giza Plateau looks like. It has been extensively and intensively studied through actual excavation, through a wide range of remote sensing methods, from electronic resistance to magnetometry to ground penetrating radar. Scholars have done a wide range of different studies for different reasons in order to understand this. And so these pyramids are built on solid bedrock. There's no major voids underneath them. Furthermore, oh, I got rid of that image. 1 second, let me get an image in here. Let me find it. Come on, I have too many images. Here we go. So we also have, for example, we've excavated and explored these pyramids fairly extensively. We know that people actually carved, the ancient Egyptians carved chambers and passages into this bedrock. So we see that it is carved out of solid bedrock, both for the Great Pyramid and for the Khafre Pyramid. We have passages and chambers carved directly out of the bedrock underneath these pyramids. So Where the hell is the voids, the giant voids where Empire State Building sized columns could be? This is sort of something that this team has to deal with, is the huge amount of evidence we have for the geology and even the excavation of parts of this bedrock by the ancient Egyptians. Second of all, we have a good understanding of the hydrology of it. And for example, the water table is just not that low. If, for example, more recent studies have looked at ancient water tables and where there's Nile branches, for example, Shisha et al. In 2022, and have shown how there was a branch of the Nile, the Khufu branch, that extended all the way up to the pyramids. So, you know, the water table was quite high in the period of the ancient Egyptians, and it still is quite high. This is a photo from 1880, right at Giza Plateau, with the Nile flooding up quite next to it. And then this is explorations of the hydrology of the entire Giza Plateau, showing at the depth at which there is natural groundwater. So the groundwater table underneath, and we actually know that there's groundwater not very deep underneath the pyramids. And along the Giza Plateau, we've actually done the ERT, not me, but these are teams that are actually managing Giza. They want to understand the water, the water table, so they can understand how, for example, the Sphinx erodes in today's period, because the Sphinx is still eroding, as are many of the monuments there. The last time I was at Giza, it rained. So, you know, understanding how to manage this sensitive terrain is important. And so we have a good understanding of the hydrology and the depth of the water table. And it's not very deep. It's not 2 kilometers down. There's water there. So how are there megastructures built 2 kilometers underneath the water table? Is a big issue. Problem number 3 with the claims that have been made is the language and the way in which it's presented. This is a cover-up. Egyptology has been shutting down actual research for decades, preventing us from knowing the truth of our past. What fucking bullshit, man. How is Egyptology? Egyptologists have not prevented this team from getting access to satellite data. They got access to legitimate satellite data, high quality satellite data, by the way, in order to make their claims. Nobody's shutting down fucking anybody. I don't know what else to say. As soon as you start hearing people say, I've been canceled, it's a cover-up, when our goal as scholars is to actually just study shit and to understand the past, they are doing that to attract your eyeballs, to get your attention. They're doing that to tell you that I'm full of shit, because they want to muddy the waters and poison the well in advance. All right, you're being blocked. Goodbye. Everybody give this a like. Yes, that's a good point. Let's feed this algorithm machine. But as soon as you start hearing these kind of stigmatized claims, you have to immediately put up your blinkers and say, wait a second, why are they saying they're being shut down? These people have published stuff. They haven't been stopped from publishing things. They've made press releases. They've gone viral. Who is stopping these people from speaking their minds? Nobody is stopping any of these people from speaking their minds. They have a larger platform than I do. How am I shutting them down? I am a minor archaeologist with a small YouTube channel, but I get accused regularly of trying to shut people up. Fuck off. You can say whatever you want. I don't care, but I can tell other people that you're wrong because I have the right to speak as well. So that's just how this world fucking goes. If you believe in free speech, well, then I can criticize you for being a douchebag who constantly calls out cover-ups. Okay? Because that is a pansy way to prove your argument. Because if you want to prove your argument, use real evidence, motherfucker. Don't claim that you've been canceled when you've not been fucking canceled. Okay? So, who are these people? Who is this team? Jason Colavito, good friend of the channel, good guy. He has a nice blog post about this team and who they actually are. and I suggest everybody read it. They consist of people who believe in ancient aliens, UFO type stuff. That's Malanga for you. Malanga, by the way, is a chemist. He's a well-published chemist. Never done anything on archaeology. We'll see what he has published in a second. Biondi is no longer an academic. He runs some firm to use this SAR type stuff to look at the Khafre pyramid. And then it's a range of other people. It was publicized, of course, by people well known in the conspiracy community. And so that's part of the point. This took off with this video, not by the guy on screen, but this one right here.
Corrado Malanga from the University of Pisa and Filippo Biondi, involved in radar and remote sensing research with the University of Strathclyde, published peer-reviewed research in 2012 of tomographic SAR images obtained from different angles, enabled the 3D reconstruction of inside the pyramid of Khafre and deep beneath the surface of the plateau. Near the base of the pyramid, 5 identical structures are seen, connected by geometric pathways. Inside each of these are 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof, and Menkure, and that they were built around 2500 BC.
Sorry, this is just the cheesiest fucking music I've ever heard in my life. And so that guy who published that video, he also made a blog post that went extremely viral. He was a correspondent for InfoWars, the famous Alex Jones InfoWars, for up until a few months ago, I think. And so he's the one who popularized it. And then the second guy, Jay Anderson, I think his name is, he has this website or YouTube channel called Project Unity.
And
he
struggling
created
to
this
express
video.
in words just how significant of a discovery this is. Filippo Biondi and Corrado. The tomographic data suggests that these are vertical wells with intricate spiral pathways. Now, this design not only implies a functional purpose, but also a level of sophisticated engineering that completely blows the dynastic Egyptian model out of the water. A lost hall of records, a sacred hall of knowledge below the Giza Plateau, the halls of Amenti. Could this be the lost hall of records from the pre-flood era? Now, obviously, this discovery is extremely controversial.
Just asking questions, just asking questions. Yeah, of course. It could be, couldn't it? And so we're just asking questions. Could this data, which is using a method that nobody uses and contradicts all the other evidence we have for the geology of the region and the hydrology, could it be what we think of from the emerald tablets of Thoth? That's essentially their argument. Yes. So I'm going to say that the reality is this has barely been reported in the media. It's not been published in any academic sort of context. And it's only been promoted by Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, Glenn Beck, and a host of other people who believe just about the last thing that they heard. So, you know, this is the kind of thing that we're looking at. Is the reason this is so popular is because of alternative media influencers. So these people here who have pushed this out so that it gets a lot of attention. And it has, for example, made it into the Daily Express. I guess I don't have the damn headline here. I did at some point, but I guess I covered it up. And the reality is it's just what people want to hear. Look, everybody, this meme right here, there is a subterranean city under the pyramids of Giza. We cannot explore it because Egypt's corrupt government refuses to allow science to learn the truth, was made 3 years ago. This is not news because this idea has been around conspiracy theorists and pseudo-archaeological circles for decades. For fucking decades. Graham Hancock started accusing the Egyptian government of covering up his attempts to do research there before he even published Fingerprints of the Gods in America. I'm sorry, but this is just a claim. It's stigmatized knowledge saying I am being canceled in order to get you to pay attention to me. Cancel culture at its finest. When you're canceled, you get book deals. That's just how this world goes, right? So the last problem with this is that it's just a fucking Rorschach test, okay? So for anybody who's not familiar, the Rorschach test is that ink blot thing. It's supposed to understand your psychology. You get an indiscriminate, indeterminate ink blob. You describe what it looks like, and that tells something about you more than it says about what that ink blot is, right? And so this is what pseudo-archaeology in today's world frequently relies upon. These kind of images. This is the actual data, right? Do you see for sure any human-made structures here? If these were all pillars of consistent materials that they were built out of, would they not show the same signal going all the way up for all of them if they were man-made in a consistent way? No, what they have is data, which as we've seen is not trustworthy data for this method below a depth of 2 meters. And then they have data and they say, if I squinted it and then I create some beautiful artistic interpretation of it, and then I create a video with some fancy music and la-da-da-da-da, I can go viral in today's world where this is what everybody's been waiting for. They're interested in going viral to get money, to keep doing their stuff. That is what they want to do. This is what people with very minimal data would like to do. No, I have a spam dude on Twitch. Okay, he is gone. And so, yeah, so what you see here on the right, this is just an artistic interpretation of the actual data, which is no better than a friggin' Rorschach test. That is what this really is. It kind of looks like something, so they say, it's what we want it to be. Something so cool that everybody's going to watch my fucking YouTube video and maybe chip me a few bucks, because that is what people are into. So yeah, and this is something that we see all over pseudo-archaeology. We have discussed this. I have another video on my channel discussing this sort of remote sensing data and different interpretations with it at the site of Gunung Padang in Indonesia. And even Joe Rogan agreed looking at this kind of stuff is like a Rorschach test. He agreed with me when I brought that up to him in person. Now that I'm no longer the last person that he's listened to, on the other hand, he is believing all kinds of other kinds of things. And now other people then take it and they create these kind of memes where they show these kind of pillars and look, they're taller than the Empire State Building. Lost civilization, buddy. This is advanced stuff. They somehow built rock into bedrock for no reason, because they put a big pillar inside bedrock. Think it through. Why would you need 8 pillars made of rock in bedrock? Solid bedrock. So, yeah, this is absolute bullshit. There is not any sort of evidence behind this. There is evidence, very strong evidence against it. If we understand the geology, the hydrology, and the archaeology of Giza, there's simply no room for this shit. And other than the Daily Express and a few random sports blogs, I don't think this has been reported anywhere. It's not been published. It has not been, nothing's been done with it. It's just a fucking press conference and some YouTube videos. So, conclusion, my beer tastes good. My beer tastes good because, yeah, there's certainly some chambers under the pyramids. We know about them, and there might be a few small ones left to still discover. I'm not going to deny that. But 2-kilometer deep megastructures, somehow in bedrock that is millions of years old and below the water table, and using a technology that doesn't give us adequate information below 2 meters, not kilometers, meters, tells me that it is bullshit. So if you have any questions, now is the time. Yeah, I would say, ask some questions. And at the same time, I want to thank all my supporters that make this all possible. But yeah, shoot me some questions. I will try to answer what I can. So do I see all of this as part of a great mud flood? No, I don't. We have no evidence for a great mud flood in the geological records anywhere. We have no evidence for giants, and we have no evidence for aliens. So no, I don't. We actually have good understanding of the geology of the Giza Plateau. We have the fossils in it, and we can really clearly date them. So we know when that stuff was formed, that bedrock. Not a mud flood from more recently. Sorry. Let's see. Yes, so when are we going to get super healing crystals from the time of the gods? I am looking forward to that. I struggle with health issues, so I would like healing crystals. If you have advanced healing crystals, send them my way, please. I think that healing crystals would be useful. Yeah, unfortunately, I would not use them, though, because I'll trust actual medicine, because that's something that works. It's actually, tested with double-blind studies and things like that. Scoby1, I really appreciate you. You're awesome, and yeah, I would imagine that if we had actual human-built structures there, or voids, we would have some consistent stuff, and we'd be using a technology that would that we know actually works, and we'd be working to ground truth it instead of making some crazy announcement. Is how I would see it. In general, I think you can see the difference between bullshit artists and scholars, because scholars first try to convince those who understand the evidence quite well and the methods. And so, these people are, on the other hand, just trying to convince the public, and that's the public doesn't know the data. They don't know about the geology of Giza. They don't understand what actually exists there. They don't understand how this technology works, and that it's actually been used since the 1980s. They have no conception over how to judge this data. All they see is kind of fancy images. So, that's always one of my big tells for someone who's a bullshit artist, is they're going to the public rather than trying to convince people who actually know the evidence. I want to thank you as well, Waco. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'd love to see what's under these newly discovered structures. We're going to have to go even deeper, guys. We're going to do it. If we can raise $5 million in this live stream, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Egypt, and we're going to drill down 3 kilometers. I've already got Zahi Hawass to give me permission. So, we're good. We're good. Zahi, he's like an old, I've never met Zahi. My dad actually taught Zahi for one class, but I've never met Zahi. But if we raise $1 million, I bet you we could do something. So let's do it. Let's do it. Let's raise $1 million right now. I'm joking. I'm not actually going to go drill under Giza. Would I ever work with Time Team one day? Yeah, I'd love to get in touch with them and collaborate in some way. I think that could be fun. I think they're awesome. So yeah, I don't know anyone on their teams to reach out to, which is usually I reach out to people who I know or have connections with. I'm in some ways. I don't like to cold email people. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Do we know what galaxies the Stargate will transport us to yet? Well, from what I understand, if the pyramids align with Orion's belt, they transport you directly to Orion. At least the ones at Giza. The ones at the Serpent Mound will send us to Andromeda. I don't know. Why do we live in this world, guys? What is happening? This is just nuts how many people believe in this. I have seen actual science communicators put up Instagram videos about this discovery, actually believe, and not going to actual researchers or scholars out there. This has gone so viral that it's being spread in very mainstream sort of media areas. And so I do want to emphasize, do make sure to give this video a like And after we're done and I close the live stream, make sure to leave a comment. We want to get this video out there so that more people see why these claims are absolutely bogus. Did I laugh when I saw Hancock's fingerprints of the god cited it? Yes, I did. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually surprised how frequently some of this stuff gets through peer review. I was talking to one of my good friends here in Cardiff. She's a remote sensor. She works with satellite imagery. She's an expert in it. And so we were laughing at the published paper and really wondering how the hell it got peer reviewed and through peer review, because it's really not very good as far as a peer-reviewed paper go, but it's published in one of those, it's an academic journal, but it's one of those academic journals that publishes sort of crappier papers because you have to pay them to get it in there, and then it's open access. And so it's what we sometimes, it's like a half predatory journal, half real journal. And sometimes things just slip through the cracks. Sometimes real archaeology that's not very good slips through the cracks. Sometimes this kind of bogus stuff slips through the cracks. It just is what it is. That's why we need experts to speak up. Let's see. Exactly. This is why we need ground testing. We need to make sure that we can test it first. If you're going to claim that you have a new technology that is revealing brand new stuff, how about you demonstrate that your technology actually works first? You know, it's sort of like how radiocarbon dating was tested. It was tested with things of known ages. So things that we had dated from historical sources because it was archaeological context, things that we had dated because we can count the tree rings on it. You first demonstrate that this is working before you make loud claims. But yes. And yes, they did somehow built rock into rock, because that's what these claims are. They're so fucking stupid. It's just like, and people just believe it. Like I said, everybody's out there believing it. It's just ridiculous. Let's see. Who is responsible for making these discoveries? I'll drop a link in there to who these people are. It's on Jason Colavito's website. He gives a nice overview. There you go. That's his sort of read on it, and he tells you who these people are and what their background is. Let's see, where are we? I have to catch up to some questions. Yes, we're going to go to the pyramids and drill. Where did Archaeomila go? Did you want to tell us about those Italians? No, this is a real claim made by people who don't, I don't know, they want to believe it. So or else they're grifters, one or the other. But either way, they're definitely not there. They're definitely not there. Hey, come on. Real science is not like gruel. Real science is like beer. The more you drink, the happier you get, right? Yes, the 2 Milos are good. Sharon, go to www.real-archaeology.com. Our festival that we did last year, we have a list of really good communicators on there who communicate archaeology. So check that out. Atomic Rooster, the stuff I was going through did not get published. The stuff that was published was more innocuous, let's say. It is also probably somewhat bogus, but it was much more mundane claims. And so I think that might be how it got through, because it didn't raise too many red flags by the people who read it. No, Sumo. SAR is an established archaeology technique currently. It is an established remote sensing technique used by people who study modern environments, modern landscapes, even urban sprawl, as well as archaeological landscapes. What it is not done for is to see stuff that is deeply buried under bedrock. So you cannot rely on the signals that it receives any deeper than a couple meters. It is an established method, but much more for surface or shallow surface environments. rather than this kind of stuff where it's claiming to read what's underground by 2 kilometers. And there is no evidence that does that reliably. In fact, the evidence we have says it does not do that reliably, and we've known that since the 1980s. So you have to show that that works by ground truthing it. Let's see. Why is all of this political? Well, if you've not noticed, to borrow the phrase of Peter Hotez and Michael Mann, science is under siege. There is a large community of political people who want to defund science, who want to discredit science, and not just science, the humanities as well, all of higher education and sort of research infrastructure that has created the world around us. That is being attacked by political forces. And there are strong political forces that are promoting this kind of bullshit. And they prefer that you believe this bogus shit so that you stop believing those of us that actually do the actual hard work and get our hands dirty and go dig and go do actual remote sensing and who go publish actual papers. So I wish it was not used politically, and I'd rather not be so political. But the reality is that funding is being cut from archaeology everywhere you look right now. And archaeologists are being fired. And so if you are someone who's interested in discovering a lost civilization, you should be supporting archaeological investigations, particularly the types that are being cut are not even the academic stuff. It's the stuff that happens just before every construction project in the US. If we're going to find a lost civilization in the US, we need to be able to investigate an area before it is destroyed by people who are doing construction. And so that is what is being cut. I have a conversation in one of my recent live streams about that. I hope to have more soon. Yes, there are a wide range of underground things that have been investigated on the Giza Plateau. There's these caves that exist there that Zahi Hawass has investigated. Others, including Zahi and others, not just Zahi, even though he gets a lot of the credit, have investigated a wide range of subsurface features around Giza, mostly actually in the exploration of the hydrology of it, to better understand water management on the site. In order to preserve the monuments, they need to understand where water goes. And so to be able to do that, they've done thorough investigations of fissures, of artificial sort of carved out passages and tombs and whatnot, as well as natural chambers and fissures and things like that that exist in the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, and as well as caves and caverns. And so, you know, that was done partly to understand archaeology, and so it was done in collaboration with archaeologists like Zahi, but it was mostly actually conducted by hydrogeologists who wanted to better understand the hydrology of the plateau, because the Sphinx is currently eroding from groundwater. And so, you know, everybody says, oh, the Sphinx doesn't erode because it doesn't rain there. A, that's bullshit. It does sometimes rain. B, the water from the groundwater rises up and can actually damage the exposed stone of the Sphinx and the pyramids and stuff like that. It's a wicking effect. It's like how, you know, the wick, like a wick in a candle, causes wax to rise up in a sense so that it burns more slowly. And so that is the effect that's happening there. I discussed this in my video conversation with Bob Schneiker, who's published on some of that geology with regards to the Sphinx and with regards to the water at the Giza Plateau. Yeah, I was going to show here, I'll show it now. This was what History from Granite stated about this stuff. He mentioned fantastical stories about the pyramids are nearly as old as the monuments themselves. Every year you get imaginative stuff. He has a soft spot for pyramid cranks because some of them are well-intentioned and they've also made good measurements and stuff like that. But in this context, I'll put it here simply: the papers produced by Corrado Malanga are wrong. You don't need to understand the word salad of technical jargon, synthetic aperture radar, doppler tomography to know they are wrong. You only need to understand the most basic concept in science, the concept of signal and noise. And yeah, this stuff is very much noise. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I had to look at this Jay's page. Let me see if I can find the post I'm thinking of. He made a post fairly recently about Baalbek, because all these people that have all these ideas about the Sphinx and the pyramids, they all have ideas about Baalbek, and it's just so silly. Look at this. Just friggin' look at this. Like, here we are. This is the temple at Baalbek. These foundation stones are prehistoric. They were discovered by the Romans. This is this large stone here, who then built the Temple of Jupiter on top of them. These three massive stones, known as the Trilithon, weigh 800 to 1,000 tons. Newsflash, Jay, if the Romans found these stones, they found, right here, they found them over Roman period construction. They found them over the prehistoric settlement that lies meters below this temple. Newsflash, was this levitating in the air for the Romans to find? Or did the Romans, who could lift 500-ton fucking stones, were they able to lift 800-ton fucking stones? Like, you have to be kidding me. This is just bullshit. It is bullshit. So, you know, it's bullshit. And so, you know, this is the problem here, is they don't get you to think. If you go and research Baalbek, you know that there's all this stuff underneath the stones that you're looking at. So, you know, they didn't just find them there. But this is the kind of logic that these people always use. They show you a picture. They say, the stones are so big. How could it have happened? And I mean, you know what I find funny? You know, where was it? Let me see if I can find it. One of these pages. Oh, this was the Daily Express article, by the way. So it is in the mainstream media, this recent press conference. Here we go. I think it was on here. No. Somewhere I was reading about this recent announcement, and they cited Herodotus, who mentioned that for 10 years, the Egyptians, to build the Great Pyramid, were excavating out stuff underground and things like that, which could easily mean the quarrying of the stones. But then he mentions a specific chamber where they diverted some river, and it's the tomb of Osiris. Guess what? We have that chamber. Go watch my Mr. Beast video. There's footage from when Mr. Beast was there where Egyptologists took Mr. Beast to that chamber, which still has water in it today. It was recently discovered, like 15 years ago or something like that. We have the chamber that Herodotus is talking about. So what Herodotus is talking about is obviously not proving this stupid underground thing that these people are talking about. Second of all, Herodotus actually tells us how he thinks the pyramids were built. Guess what? With ramps and levers. Plutarch says this as well. You know, if these things were so impossible to build, why did the Greeks and Romans think they were possible to be built? The Greeks and the Romans didn't think that gods built the pyramids. They thought that people using technology that they were familiar with were capable of building the pyramids. It's only us who are so divorced in our modern world from traditional technology who thinks that these things are not possible. We think that these people from a few thousand years ago were not smart enough to figure out how to lift a heavy stone. Bullshit. People have been lifting heavy stones for thousands of years. We have good evidence they were. They also told us that they did. So, blah. All right, I'll take a few more questions. No, Mark, it's not wild. This was very clearly boosted by a wide range of extremely influential people. This was very, very much intentionally boosted by a group of people who want to boost these kinds of claims that academics don't know what they're talking about. Because this is what they do. They want to get everybody out there to believe that we are full of shit, when in fact we actually know the evidence and can calmly and dispassionately prove why they are full of shit. So yeah. Yes, I love Mini Minuteman. I love Guts at Gibbon. Go watch their channels. I see shout outs for both of them in the chat. Let's see. Yes, Simon, I fully agree. Whenever you process data, you have these artifacts in a sense in the data, and you need to understand and figure out where they're there and how to get that noise out of there so that you can get the signal that you're looking for that tells you what's there. And to be honest, like I said, the best way to do that is to ground truth so that you can see which parts of that results in your data are signal versus noise by checking them physically in the location that you are in. That's what ground truthing is. What do they get from defunding science? What is the end goal? I don't know. Money and fame, man. I don't know. Someone, you're maybe man, maybe woman, maybe whatever. Money and fame is what these people are interested in. They're interested in having power. And like, you know, scientists oftentimes speak truth to power. And so, you know, that's whenever we live in authoritarian or autocratic states or theocracies, people who publish and work on science are oftentimes targeted. Galileo was not burned. He wasn't burned at all, but Galileo was not targeted by scientists. Galileo was targeted by the church. Scientists are the ones being targeted by these pseudoscience crowds who want to do whatever the fuck they're doing. If I could pick an excavation, where would it be? Maybe in Albania. My wife is from Albania. I'd love to go to Albania and do some excavation there. Be near my family in that sense, and well, her family, but you know, that's my family, and I would love to do more work in Albania. I have excavated in Albania before, but it's been a decade and a half. Yes, North 02 is great. Is Elon going to harm archaeology? Elon Musk has already harmed archaeology significantly. Hundreds of archaeologists have been fired from the federal government. Hundreds of archaeology grants have been threatened to be canceled. He is extremely harmful to archaeology. I do not like Elon Musk in the least. There was a time not that long ago where I wanted to buy a Tesla. I would never want to buy a Tesla anymore. Yeah, I think this is the crux of it, is this crowd claims to be free thinkers, but they really aren't. They're interested in just shutting people down and only accepting one side of evidence. And for some reason, they think of critique as, they frame my critique as trying to silence them, when if you believe in free speech and free thinking, you should let me fucking speak. But you don't want to. You want to call my job and get me fired. You want to lie about me and claim that I faked cancer. You want to do all this kind of bullshit in order to cancel me. Fuck off. Not you, JP, but those assholes. Thank you, Red, for becoming a member. I'm going to be releasing an advanced video soon for members, and then it'll come out for everyone else a few days later. It's actually titled From Hierakonpolis to Giza. It's a conversation with my good friend, Dr. Beth Hart, about ancient royal Egyptian tombs and their development all the way up to the pyramids at Giza. That'll be out for members, I think tomorrow probably, if not Sunday, and for everybody else the following week. Yeah, the cat ears, let me find that. I found that meme, and so somebody had made that meme. I was just looking for fun memes. Let me see where that is. Yeah, the one on the left, it's some meme that somebody made on like Pinterest or something like that, and I was like, that's fucking cool. Okay, I have answered a bunch of questions, and Kuma, I'm sorry, I've had a really, really rough 10 days. This has been one of the worst stretches in my life, and I don't have any patience for anything right now, so apologies for my language, but it is what it is. And let's see. Yes, I completely agree, Jay Whitecloud. You need to understand all the basic geology and arts within traditional lithic work and within architecture to understand what they're looking at. And these people really just don't. They're just interested in promoting some false narrative. And well, that is what it is. All right, my sound is having problems. I am going to say thank you. I don't know why the sound is doing this. There must be a cable mix-up. All right, I'm going to call it. Thank you all so much. And we'll do some more live streams soon. Hopefully, I might be a little bit out of commission due to health reasons for a couple weeks. But we have some videos coming out anyway. And we'll chat more soon. Thank you all. Love and archaeology to all. And yeah, feel free to make sure you give a like and a comment once I close this so that you can boost the algorithm a little bit.